Welcome to Scaling for Success. I am here today with an amazing marketer. I want to introduce you to Nick. And I got to tell you, I love the name of his company. And he's going to talk to you as well about what he did for branding, because I know he's going to tell the story about the telephone booths, which I adore. So, Nick, welcome today to the channel. I am so excited to have you here. Why don't you give us a brief introduction about who you are, and then we're going to dive right in.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about today. So I'm Nick Skovgaard. I'm the owner and founder of Alter Ego Marketing. We're based in Southern Illinois, and we're what we like to refer to ourselves as a digital first marketing agency. We simply believe that, after the craziness of 2020, that most brands don't realize that the ways that customers think about their business, the ways that business owners market their business, everything has changed. The rules have all changed, and people are digital first exclusively. They're going to look for your brand online, and if you're not there ready to be found, you're likely to be overlooked. So we help businesses correct that issue.
Oh, that's so important, Nick. I can't tell you the number of times I hop on a sales call and the first thing they tell me is, I saw your LinkedIn profile, or I went to your YouTube channel, or hey, I went to Facebook. How come you're not Instagram? Not for me. But this is great. So I love the digital first component because you're so right. Not only has everything technology wise changed, but so has the way people are thinking about making their buying decisions. And so before we dive into those topics today, tell me, I know you got a bit of a unique backstory. I want to hear the story of Nick and how you got to where you are, which is a great combination of vision and strategy and all of the wonderful things that go into shaping alter ego marketing.
So I think it's fun because I always like to tell this story when I'm talking to young people, whether it's high school students or college students or just people young in the workforce. Which is my story is really one that kind of comes back to this quote that I love, which is failure is not the opposite of success; it's the shortcut. The lessons you learn the hardest way possible are the ones that you remember the best. And I tell the story a lot of times that when I was a young man, when I was in high school, even in early college, I thought that I was dumb. I didn't think I was an intelligent person. I didn't know what my skill set was. And I looked around the room and I saw all of these people who had, these really, really clear skills that I could identify. This is the valedictorian. This person is, a whiz, playing a musical instrument. This is the jock. This is the athlete. This is the person on Scholar Ball. And that wasn't me. I didn't fit into any of those categories. I was good at being nice to people. I was good at talking to people. I was fairly outgoing, but I assumed that those were not skills. And so, for the first 25 years of my life, I really didn't know what skills or values that I brought to the table. And then, between 25 and 35, I didn't know how to utilize those skills to make money and to grow my own career. And what I think every business owner out there does is they identify and focus on the things that they're not good at. And so I've kind of made it a passion of mine to go back and tell this story over and over because I want to go out and find that person who maybe was stuck at some point in their career or in school or something and just couldn't get over that hump and like explain like it's okay, you're not supposed to have it all figured out. I am 40 years old, I don't have it all figured out. And I think that is so refreshing to hear. When I interview entrepreneurs, that's the story I want to hear is, how'd you fall on your face? So one of my first jobs out of college, I actually was working for somebody who I consider a friend and mentor these days. I was working for another agency in our area, and I was fired from that agency. It was one of those things where I just fell on my face. I did something stupid. I was a child, and not only that, but reflecting back on it, the owner of the company was so gracious in not only how he did it, but I was terribly embarrassed. And without going too far down this rabbit hole here, I went to interview after interview after interview, and I would interview, and they would go, why'd you leave your last job? And up to that point, the interview was always going really well, and then I'd start making all these excuses, and it would just sort of nosedive from there. And I'll never forget this moment as long as I live. I was sitting across from this guy interviewing me, and he's got his glasses down on like the brim of his nose. He's going through, and we get this question on. I bomb it. Like I just bombed the like, why did you leave your last job? And I start making all these excuses and backpedaling every way from Sunday, and he eventually I tell him I was let go from that position, and he just gets this crazy look on his face, and he's got his glasses right here on the edge of his nose. He's got all these papers, and he starts shuffling them through, and he goes from this person. He says their name, and I go, yeah. He goes, that's weird. I talked to him this morning, and he gave you a glowing reference. And that moment, like, forever changed me, because
Wow.
I assumed up to that point that he didn't like me, that he hated me, that I was embarrassed by it. And I found out that he had been giving me a glowing reference for every job I had ever applied for. So again, I'm a quote junkie. And so I'll share one more with you to kind of cap this story, which is, um, experience is what you get when you don't get what you want. And I found that quote, and I used it in every job interview that I had from that moment going forward. I owned my mistake, I owned my failure, and it changed everything. And so, if you want to go back to what is my origin story, that's it right there. I believe that we it takes a long time for us to figure out what we're good at. It takes falling on our face a couple times, but being bold enough to do that and to learn from it will change absolutely everything.
Okay. That's a lot. That is amazing. So, best quotes. Failure is a shortcut. I love that.
Hmm.
Your story. So, first of all, everyone who's listening, Nick has an amazing podcast. Let's just put a plug in, Nick, for your podcast because it's so much fun.
So it's called the Secret Origins of Entrepreneurs, and I literally tell that story. My goal is to find and interview entrepreneurs that have had, wildly successful careers, and it's fun because they always tell the same story. At one point, I didn't know what I was doing. At one point, I failed on my face. I fell on my face. At one point, I was scared out of my freaking mind, and it all worked out. And I'm where I am today because of those mistakes, because of those failures, because of the risks that I took. And so we're actually just launching a new series of these. The first episode will air November 5th, and Susan, you're on that list for early November as well. I'm excited for that as well.
It was so much fun having that conversation, Nick. It really was. So, I can't wait. I can't wait to promote it. I can't wait to do this because it is a blast. The theme that we're talking about right now, I know it's not marketing specific, it's much more on the mindset side of it. But as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, as a senior leader, you have to be comfortable with failing and knowing where you just don't know, and understanding that, yeah, you might hit your head against a brick wall a few times. It hurts.
Well, everything you do is scary the first time you do it. And the
Yeah.
thing is, if you're growing, you're going to have to do things that you've never done before. If you're trying to scale a business, the whole purpose of that is you're scaling to a place you've never been. And so it's going to take some risk. It's going to take some hard work. It's going to be scary, but it's going to pay off in the end.
And it is, and you have to have that faith. And we spend a lot of time in these recent years, I say that as an old part, that ultimately we want the immediate gratification, and it doesn't work that way. Business does not work that way. I know I spent time with a company in hyper growth, going from 0 to 8 figures in 18 months, but then things break. Then the marketing systems don't work anymore. The same way that you did things at one stage won't work for the next stage.
Not
And
at all.
so, back to our topic for the day, from a marketing perspective, you need to have the strategic thinking. You need to go back to the basic elements. Okay, what is working? What isn't working? What has changed? Why has it changed?
and
Which is
and
really
what's still true. um at the end of the day, especially when it comes to marketing, you're right, the tactics change, but the story necessarily doesn't have to. There are things that are innately true about your business and your customers, their fears and the things that sort of keep them up at night, and those things oftentimes don't change. The purest form of what's at the center of your marketing is probably going to stay the same.
wow. That's valuable to say because I didn't think about that until you just said that right now, that the purest things at the core won't change. So elaborate a little bit on that for me, because if you're in the space where you need leads, You know,
Hmm.
the lifeblood of business is the sales and the revenue. But before you get to the sales and the revenue, you have to have the lead come in. And how do you make that happen? You make it happen with marketing and storytelling. And we'll get into storytelling, I'm sure. But I also want to make sure that we don't forget about that wonderful 10-year anniversary that you and your team just had with its telephone booths, because I love that story.
Okay.
So, marketing strategy at the core, talk more to me. What does that mean that it doesn't change?
So I guess I want to come back to there's a TED Talk that I would absolutely advocate that everyone go watch right now. As soon as you're done with this podcast, go look up Simon Sinek's The Golden Circle. It is one of the most impactful things. There's a book called Start with Why. The book is excellent, but at least the TED Talk is just it's one of the most powerful things I've ever come across. I literally founded my agency on a quote from that TED Talk, which is people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. People don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. When we talk about the core of your marketing, the messaging being so critically important to the stories that you're telling, it comes back to people very rarely want to buy logically. The logic justifies the decision. You know, when people say, and you know, this is something that Simon talks about in the TED Talk is, you know, like I trust my gut. I could feel it in my gut. Very few people don't know what he means, right? When you meet someone and you have this gut reaction to like, man, this is somebody I want to work with. This is someone who I trust. This is somebody who believes and aligns their values with things that I care about. It can make all the difference in sort of the relationship. And really good marketing is meant to communicate that. If you look at some of the biggest brands out there, you've never seen in your entire life a Nike or an Under Armour ad that lists all the components and the materials that the shoe is made out of. They don't do that. It doesn't matter. They're not talking about the laces. They're not talking about the rubber in the soles. They're not talking about any of that. They're talking about a feeling that you get. I mean, Under Armour's tagline, I assume it is still this, is protect this house, right? Like that resonates in such a powerful way. It has nothing to do with gym clothes. It has nothing to do with shoes. Out of context, it doesn't even make sense. But when you see it in an ad, you feel it. And if you've ever been part of a team sport, if you've ever been part of you know, defending a championship title or something like that, that resonates in a powerful way. That's what great marketing does.
And great marketing comes from the storytelling. It comes from the ability to evoke emotion. That's
Mhm.
what I'm hearing out of everything that you've said. I mean, I'm reflecting on Nike more than Under Armour because I know the Nike brand
Of
better.
course.
But I didn't even realize until 20 years ago that Nike was based on a goddess, the goddess Nike, the goddess of winning, victory. Like, oh, wait, way to go, those people in 1972. You did a good job there. But I don't know it for that. I know it for the swoosh. I know it for the, you're just going to do it. You're going to get it done. You literally understand that it's just there for the journey.
Yeah. Yeah, and I mean, like you can see it in if you've ever taken a little kid shoe shopping, you can see it. The moment they put on the shoes, the first thing they do is, "Mom, watch me! Look how fast I am!" Whoosh, and they run across the floor. The shoes don't make them any faster, but it doesn't matter because they hold that belief that they do.
Yes.
And I think that so many brands forget that people are not logical creatures, right? You know, we your wallet is closer to your heart than your head. You know, it's such a good way to remember that is like you're going to buy on an emotion. You're going to justify it here on a logic or a fact point. When you go to, you know, tell your boss, why'd you make that decision? Oh, well, they have here's a statistic. But that initial decision, that gut decision, that is heart, not head.
It so is. It so is. And so I want to reflect on something that you and I had talked about some time ago. And that was that I had just finished reading the book Story Brand,
Uh-huh.
because I'm a very logical person, right? I got my master's in epidemiology. I'm a data girl, right? I am so not the person that you want to try and convince for the emotion. I'm going to need this
But
stuff.
I disagree. I think that you may be a logical person, but I bet that you are convinced by emotion more than you realize.
You're probably right. You're probably right. I don't think it, but you're
But
probably
no, I don't think that anybody does.
So we talked a little bit about story brand because, and this kind of in my head goes back to the name of your agency, right? Alter ego marketing. It goes to the stories, the evolutions in the characters when you're talking about alter egos. It goes to how we really learn and remember what we have heard far more. 72% of this and 3% of that. I'm probably the only person on the planet that's going to remember that. Everyone else is going to remember it, blue hair and this feeling and whatever. And so how do you incorporate all of those different elements when you're doing, I mean, I'm thinking back to the digital age and how things have changed in a post-COVID world. How do you make all of that work from a messaging standpoint so it's memorable?
Well, so I want to come back to something that is a major component of story brand, and I feel like so many people kind of miss this, um, in marketing and even like breezing through story brand or some of the principles of story brand, which is your goal is not to be the hero of the story. Your goal is to make your customer the hero of the story, right? When you think about really, really powerful ads, if you're trying to sell a minivan to a soccer mom, right? The goal is not to make the mom look super cool in her van and she's driving down the road. That's not the goal. The goal is that when the entire team comes over to get the juice boxes out of the van, everyone's like, oh, your van's so cool, to her son, who is bringing the team over, and the whole team is gathered around her son, and she is now the cool mom because of what she's done for the soccer team. That is like, she's the hero in that story. You don't want the van to be the hero in the story. You want the mom to be the hero in the story. And the same is true for all marketing. If you think about what you're trying to do, if you're selling B2B, at the end of the day, let's say I'm coming to my giant company and I say, look, I've brought on Susan, and she's going to help us sort of scale the business and do this. What I want is my boss to go, Nick, you're so smart for going out and finding Susan. She is exactly who we've been looking for, because I'm the hero in that story. You could make yourself the hero in that story, but that's not what's going to sell and make the conversion. We want to make that customer the hero of the story. And so, I really do fundamentally believe that the alter ego name came from this sort of concept that there is a super brand, there's a superhero version inside every single organization out there, and we all know what that is, right? You can close your eyes and imagine what your business looks like, operating at its top capacity. And there's actually an exercise for this called the hot shot rule. Have you ever heard of the hot shot rule?
I've not
Um,
heard of that. Tell
so
me
the
more.
hot shot rule is this amazing exercise. It immediately hurt my feelings. That's how I know it's good. But I want you to imagine wherever you are in a company, whatever you do in your company, I want you to imagine that tomorrow they bring in the best person at your job, a hot shot, somebody who is just 1,000 times better. They have more experience than you. They already know all the answers. And you imagine that they're going to come in and they're going to go, wow, we're not doing this at all right. Here's what I'm going to change. I'm going to change this. I'm going to change this. Change this. I'm going to make these processes more efficient. We're going to put in this new proofing process. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And the goal is simply to run that exercise. What would a hotshot do if if they took your chair for a week? What would be the first thing that they would change? And then do that thing, right? Go make those changes. You very oftentimes know what needs to be done, but humans are kind of silly creatures in the sense that we might know what needs to be done, but we don't do it. And so, right before the show, we were talking about accountability partners and why those are so important, whether that's a coach, whether that's a company that comes in as a consultant and helps you. But you might know what to do. You might not know what order to do it in. You may not know how to make it work. You may not know how to do it financially. You may be stuck on something technical that you don't know how to solve, and it's really easy to let day-to-day things get in the way. I believe that there's a superhero version of every single brand out there, and a lot of times when I talk to an owner and I talk about them, waving their magic wand and thinking what 1 year, 3 year, 10 years out looks like, what could their brand do? um they have this really grand vision of what's possible, and so helping them figure out what are the baby steps to get there, that's what it's all about. How do I help you unlock that superhero potential?
Oh, that's so powerful. It really is. You got to tell the people about the telephone booth.
Okay. So Alter Ego's logo is a K6 red phone booth. So if you ever come across our website or something like that, you can see our phone booth proudly displayed there. But for 10 years, I've been on a quest to acquire an authentic cast iron red K6 phone booth. By the way, is 8 feet 3 inches tall and like 2,100 pounds or something. They're insanely heavy. And so I managed finally, after a decade, we just celebrated our 10-year anniversary. After almost a decade of looking, I managed to acquire not one, but three of them. And so I have a mint condition, absolutely perfect K6 phone booth that we put on display in front of our building in downtown Heron, Illinois, right on the main street of Heron. It is a beautiful, beautiful, phone booth red. But the whole idea kind of came from this idea that Clark Kent turned into Superman in a phone booth, and of course that was the American version, but they're not nearly as pretty. So we adopted the British version to help people sort of unlock that superhero potential that they have.
See what a great story that is. I have always remembered that story, and I tell that story. I know this guy, Nick, and this is what he did to celebrate because it
Oh,
evokes an emotion. It's fun, it's truly engaging. And you tell it with such passion. So, congratulations on the 10-year anniversary.
thank
We
you.
all know the stats, and so you've done absolutely incredible and amazing. The other conversation that we had just before rolling with the camera here was all about immediate gratification versus something taking a little bit longer. 10 years, that's awesome. You should be so proud of yourself.
I am. Like you said, the statistics don't lie. Most businesses don't make it three, and then don't make it five, and don't make it 10, and crossing that 10-year mark was a really big deal. I don't know in my wildest dreams if I could have imagined that I would be here someday.
Oh, so proud of you, Nick. Really am. I want to go back to the heroic journeys for a minute. In practice, what would that look like for your clients? So I'm just trying to think, hey, I'm listening to Nick right now, and I really love what he's talking about. He's making a lot of sense. I'm never going to forget the telephone booth. And so ultimately, maybe I want to engage with him, but what do I need to do? Because when you talk branding, when you talk marketing, it is so much more vast and complicated. Sorry to a layperson, than what I originally thought 5 years ago. Oh, well, you just need this for marketing, but it's really not. It's the copy, it's the graphics, it's the font and the colors, and I'm like, oh my god.
Well,
Let me go back to my
so
epidemiology and statistics.
I think that it's always interesting to hear this from somebody who isn't naturally inclined to it, because like this is something, a world that I live in, because a lot of times I think that it's something that comes really naturally. It feels easy to me, but not everything comes naturally to everyone. And so with branding, the simplest way to put it is, your brand isn't what you say it is. Your brand is what other people say about it when you're not in the room. And so what you need to do is be able to lay out the case for other people to remember the best parts of your brand, to understand what it is you actually do. And the best way to do that is to be consistent. If you think about the word brand, in its very traditional sense, a brand used to be something that you would brand into a kettle, or more likely a barrel of wine. And it's really simple. If you know that there's 100 barrels that contain wine, and everybody loves the barrels that have the triangle on them because that's the good wine, which barrels do you want? Do you want an unmarked mystery barrel of wine, or do you want one that everyone else wants and everyone else talks about, and everybody knows the best wine is in the ones with the little triangles on them? Well, the answer is easy. I want the one that everybody wants. There must be a reason that everybody wants that. And the thing is if you're putting your wine in the same barrels as everyone else, and there's nothing distinguishing about it, there's no way for people to remember. You don't have consistency in your fonts and your colors and your branding and anything. It's really hard for them to pick you out and start to assign value to what you're offering. Now you become sort of a commodity, just something. If you think about, like, hey, would you like fish for lunch? Um, okay, cool. What does that mean? Versus, hey, would you like your fish prepared in this special way by one of the most renowned chefs on the entire planet? Those are not the same thing. And I guarantee you they do not have the same price tag. But the thing is, if you don't explain it, if you don't say any more, then the person never has the opportunity to assign more value to it. And with branding, with most small businesses, the thing that I would just really tell them to think about is boil it down to the simplest parts. You need something that is consistent across every medium, across every platform, whether that's, your logo, your font, your color, ideally all three of those things. And you need people to recognize and draw conclusions off of what they see quickly. Best example I can ever think about is, you know, let's just pick one. Walmart, McDonald's. Think about the major brands that you know. If you're driving down the road and you see a McDonald's Golden Arches, however high they are, off the highway, there's one of these giant golden arches, and it is 7 o'clock at night. Are they open?
Yes.
Well, you didn't ask me what day it was. What
I
if
don't
it's
care.
Tuesday? Are
Doesn't
they
matter.
open? What if it's
Yes.
Friday? Are they open?
Doesn't matter.
Do they serve cheeseburgers?
Yes.
Well, this is the one in Ohio. Are you sure they serve cheeseburgers?
I can find a McDonald's on any continent I've ever been to.
And the thing is, like, certain things. So can you imagine that you go up to a McDonald's and you order food for your family and it is $700? Is there any context where that happens?
No.
It just isn't, because you know what the quality of the food is going to be. You know that they're going to have Coke products. You know that they're going to have hamburgers. You know that they're going to be open, a scope of business hours that is normal. And I feel like that's the best comparison with a small business shop that I could ever draw is like, hey, I looked at your website and it says that your hours are 9 to 5 on Mondays, 9 to 3 on Tuesdays. You're closed on Wednesdays. You're open till 4:30 for some reason on Thursdays. And you're going like, why don't people come in? Well, they don't know when you're open. They don't know what products you carry. They don't know what the price is going to be. Whereas you're like, hey, do you want to go to McDonald's? Everybody in the planet, they might say no, but they're saying no because they already draw conclusions. So now, because of that, and because they're so consistent, that's what those golden arches mean. Those golden arches mean hamburgers. Those golden arches mean that they're going to serve Coke. Those golden arches mean that it's going to be fast. Those golden arches mean that they're going to be affordable, to some degree. They're not going to cost what a steak dinner at a 5-star restaurant is going to cost for sure. And you change what has to be marketed, because now look at every billboard McDonald's has ever run. It is a breakfast sandwich and the golden arches and maybe turn right. There's no information. They don't have to put their hours. They don't have to put their website. They don't have to put their phone number. They don't have to talk about hamburgers. They don't have to talk about Coke. Meanwhile, every mom and pop shop is trying to put 17 paragraphs of text on every billboard and every ad that they do, because they still have to communicate all of those things, because they have not invested enough in the brand to make the brand tell the story.
That has to be the most succinct way that anybody has ever explained marketing to me. Thank you. Like, oh,
you see why I don't think it's that hard, right?
Gotcha. Okay. So that's all I need to do. Good. Okay. So we just did this experience with our own company this past summer. I had Scaling Management Consulting Group, right? The name I didn't pick, somebody else picked it for me for the company because of SEO reasons. Then we have Scaling for Success, the thing that we actually went out with Facebook ads and we did all these things, and it was digital products. And then we have scalingresources.com, which is all where our shop is, and you can do all sorts of things there. Great. But it was all over the map. And the colors, well, I like black and gold. So the corporate colors were black and gold, but the other ones didn't even match. And so just going through the exercise of choose a font, choose one logo, one primary logo that's going to be for as much of the suite as you can, knowing that, we do have the 2 trademarks. So sorry, everybody. there are still going to be a couple, but now the colors are synchronized, right? And so there's pieces and there's elements that now make more sense as you work across all of our different elements. So for all of those who are listening, the same sorts of things make sense, I would assume, for you as well. You have to have the basic, and I almost want to say it includes the tagline, because just those little pieces like Nike, the swoosh, just do it. Okay, I know exactly what that is. If I said loving it, I know what that is too.
I mean,
right?
McDonald's has a masterclass in this. I mean, nobody on the planet doesn't know ba 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 ba. There's no words. There's nothing. They invented a Sonic logo that the entire world recognizes, which is like that is mind blowing to someone like me in the marketing world. What an incredible thing! You could literally put that in elevator music, and people would be riding an elevator, hear that in the background, not even realize they hear it, and like Pavlov's dog people into going like, "Hey, you hungry for McDonald's?" Like, yeah, I am. Let's go.
That's brilliant. Okay, elevator operators. Around lunchtime, if you want to drive people over to McDonald's, let's test this out.
I mean, I'm a fan.
Yeah. But you look at it. So we just went, my daughter and I, over to the Apple store on the weekend.
Hmm.
And we went to the Apple store because her AirPods didn't function properly. Within a few months of getting them. It's the weirdest thing. We went over. Obviously, it's a beautiful, very smooth experience. You walk into the store, you know exactly what you're going to get. I don't know that there's a but with Apple, but there is certainly a feeling and a color and a visual when you go in that all
So
Apple products are going to have it.
can I drive this point home
Please.
like the best way I know how? I want you to close your eyes for a second. I want you to close your eyes for a second, for real. And I
Okay.
want you to imagine that Apple decided tomorrow that they're going to go into the hotel business and they're going to build hotels all over America. You closing your eyes, you can see exactly what that hotel would look like. Do you know
Yes.
how crazy that is? Do you know how good of a brand you have to take something that they don't even come close to doing? That is not even in the ecosystem of something that Apple would ever consider. You can close your eyes and you can imagine what an Apple hotel would look like. Is your brand that strong? Because if it's not, there's still some opportunity here. That comes back to like that master class in branding. It's everywhere, and the thing that it is Apple is insanely consistent. If you're ever looking for copywriting 101, go to the Apple website and look at their copywriting. Apple, the rule of thumb used to be that if you had a billboard, you had a maximum of 7 words, 7 words on a billboard. Look at what Apple has done when you go to their website. It's two. Apple uses 2 words better than anyone I've ever found in my entire life. If you're scrolling through Apple, look at how they advertise every single every single product. You're talking about these short, quippy, memorable phrases. A lot of times their headline and their subtext will have like an alliteration or a play on words together, and they're all so incredible. You can actually look up a list of what Apple refers to as power words, and there are these incredible words that Apple uses in all of their marketing and branding that convey and make you feel emotion, and they're so intentional with it. Once you spot it and you start looking for it, it's scary how good they are at it.
So I had to look it up because I'm a data girl, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm seeing this as I come up. It's the iPhone 16, and then underneath there's 3 words, and then a beautiful image, right?
Hmm.
It's just amazing, the colors and and then it's learn more and buy.
Yep. And what are
Simple.
the 3 words?
Hello, Apple Intelligence.
And what's crazy about that is like if I showed up to a meeting with a local client, someone who is a small mom and pop, and I pitched those 3 words, but about their product, they would laugh me out of the room. And that's so funny because great marketing is so often based on being able to take these really complicated ideas and boil them down to the simplest and most easy to understand. What they're trying to tell you is, hey, this phone has Apple Intelligence. They don't try and sell you AI. They don't talk about the capabilities of their AI. Apple is really good at taking complex things and making them incredibly easy. I used to work for a local newspaper, and the owner of the newspaper is Jason Thomas. He always used to tell the story of when they founded the paper, they started the paper with one Apple device and one PC device. And by the time I worked there, which was a decade and a half, maybe 2 decades later, he goes, one of the crazy things is both of those devices are still in this building. The Apple computer that we founded the company on is the server that runs the brains of the operation. The PC is directly under it, and my daughter uses it as a step stool to reach up when she has to get something off the top of the server. That's the difference between a Mac and a PC. And I was like, that's amazing. Like Apple makes things that just work. They're intuitive, they're functional, they're easy to navigate. And you know that because if you take your phone and you hand it to your 3-year-old niece, they can operate it scary well.
Yeah.
That doesn't always work with the competition, and it's not because their phones are not as good, and people who love Samsungs will defend this all day long, but the thing is there's a compromise that happens when you make things very complicated, when you always upgrade all the features, when you change everything. Apple has boiled it down to we make things that are beautiful and they just work. Which one do you want?
True. I had never realized that their website is designed the way that you're talking about. And so I was scrolling because I was like, wow, this is really a thing. And I was shocked. It's like, okay, watch. Instant classic, learn more, buy. Beautiful picture. AirPods, iconic, now supersonic. Learn more, buy.
You hear the alliteration too? Like there is a pattern to their copywriting style that is like it's like the words just flow so well. They do a really good job. Like there is a lot of work done on choosing what specific words. They're not just randomly thrown together, and as you read them, you can hear it.
Symphonic boom. I mean, it's visual. You can hear like this is, I had never realized, but you're
Copywriting
absolutely
masters.
Right.
Copywriting masters. They are literally the go-to example. The problem is it's very hard to emulate. It's very, very hard to copy what they're doing.
So just from a curiosity standpoint, because now we're way down the rabbit hole, Nick, I gotta ask this. So many people out there, and I question this on my own website. Oh, you have to have all this text and you have to have all these buttons and you have, you're by the time you get your pages, like this really long thing. And I'm like, but I'm not sure I do. Because to make it simple, to make it something that somebody goes, yeah, you get me. Do I really need more than just a couple of simple, straightforward, well-crafted sections?
So I would say that there's a couple conversations happening here that are going to be really important to kind of define. I mean, the reason why Apple can do that is Apple doesn't need this crazy level of SEO because Apple has so many different traffic sources driving people to the website, right? They're not trying to capture a random Google search of somebody who's typing in headphones. So they're like, oh, I didn't know that AirPods existed. I've never heard of this little company called Apple. Like, what a novel idea, right? I mean, Apple is obviously spending a ton of money on marketing and developing, building backlinks, and influencer partnerships. There's a million things happening behind the scenes there. They're not playing the game at the same level as every mom and pop out there. And when you think about most businesses, the reason why things like content and SEO are so important is because you are playing that game. You are trying to still get people to know what you do, to find you in a search when maybe they're not looking for you specifically. I really doubt that there's anyone on the planet today who's like, I need a phone, or I need headphones, or I need, I don't even, what is the competitor for an iPad? I don't even know who that is. There's nobody who doesn't have Apple as a brand consideration, at least. They might go, I wish I could afford an iPhone, or I prefer Samsung over iPhone, but I don't think that there's anyone going like, what? I wonder what an iPhone is. So interesting. I'll go take a look at this. They're just competing on a different level. But when you talk about content, especially, one of the things that's important to realize about web today is that very few people enter your website through your homepage. And so you're fishing using lots of different nets when you're creating things like blog articles, when you're creating social media posts, when you're creating a podcast, when you're reaching out to find some way to touch that ideal audience and get them to go like, oh, man, that Susan woman, she really seems like she knows what she's talking about. Let me go see what she does. I want to scale my business and I need help. I wonder what her process is. I wonder who else has used her. I wonder who else she's connected to. I wonder what companies she's worked with. And so when you're creating a lot of that content and there is a lot of content on the page, it's because you're casting a lot of nets in a really, really, really big competitive ocean. And I don't think the model should be that every business needs to create a website that looks and functions like Apple. But I do think that people need to look to Apple and realize that people don't want to read 400 pages anymore, right?
Yeah.
There was a day, I mean, you can remember the day of old magazine copy of, there's like this paragraph in an ad that tells this story. Those don't exist anymore, and there's a reason why. People aren't reading them. And so, you have to write content for the search engine. You have to write content for the algorithm. You have to cast a lot of nets. But at the end of the day, you have to remember that humans are pretty simple creatures, and you have to give them a compelling reason to take action. And you need to sell the next step in the process as opposed to trying to sell them every feature and benefit that you could ever think of about your entire product. I mean, for me, well, and Susan, I think this is probably true of you as well. But for me, 99 times out of 100, what the customer wants is they know they're not doing this at the level that they need to be doing. And they want someone to say, hey, I got you. I know what to do. I'll keep you involved, but I'll take it from here. Let me help you through this process. I know you don't know what needs to go on the website. That's why we have a process for it. I know you don't know what needs to be part of your logo. That's what we have a process for. And I think that one of the things that I am uniquely gifted at that has helped me to be successful basically is a lot of times you just have to have tough conversations with clients of like, hey, listen, I know you think that's a good idea, but it's not a good idea. And I have the evidence to back up why it's not a good idea. You can make the decision to put a paragraph on your billboard, but people are driving by that billboard going 70 miles an hour. They're not going to find it. They're not going to write down your phone number. They're probably not going to remember your website. You need to have something really compelling that makes them think of you. And then you need to make absolutely sure that when they go, oh, who was that I saw a billboard for? And they type in the name of the company into Google, that your website shows up, not your competitors. That's the name of the game.
For anyone who didn't just get that about billboards, I got a story for you.
Okay.
We have put in several roundabouts in our city. As you approach the roundabout, going miles per hour, right? They have a sign that directs you to how to learn to drive a roundabout to a website. But don't worry, because texting and looking at a phone while driving is illegal where we are. So I don't understand. What is this supposed to accomplish aside from me mocking you?
I mean, good question. There's a lot of, I mean, you are talking about government decision making, which is not notoriously well known for being effective.
Highly bureaucratic. Something that you were just talking about brings me back to what you said earlier, and I just want to make this point again. So the TED Talk with the golden circle, really important. And I want to go back to that because that was a great video. I'm gonna try and find it and put it in the description and the links below. And I found we had put in a heat map and tracking for where people go on our sites. And it was interesting to me because you're absolutely right. People don't land necessarily on your homepage. Okay, fair. But where do they go next if they stay? Well, for me, I'm finding it goes to the about page. And so I was thinking back to the golden circle. They really want to understand the why of what are you doing? Why are you doing what you're doing? Are you aligned with me? Does it make sense to do business? That gut check. Do you find some of those pieces to be true?
So, I think that my favorite sort of analogy of like this is can you imagine that if somebody, ran across your business, they ran across one of the podcasts that you do or a post that you made on LinkedIn, and they come to your website, and the second page they go to is the About Us page, and the About Us page probably has you on it, and they landed on your About Us page, and it says, hi, I'm Susan. I worked, in a professional capacity for a long time, and I found out I could make a lot of money teaching stupid business owners how to implement, processes in their business. And it's easier than anything else I could possibly do, which is why I founded my company. Literally everyone is out, right? Like that's no one is gonna get done with that and go like, oh, I have a good feeling about this relationship. Whereas, you can talk, and again, I'll tell my story a little bit here because I don't know yours as well, but I think that you would be able to tell the story very easily, which is, I love seeing people who are really, really good at what they do, who are passionate business owners. I love to see them win. And I love to help them remove the roadblocks that keep them from winning, to help them tell their story and reach more people and connect with the people who are going to buy why they do what they do and connect to that passion. I love that. And I love to see small businesses grow and become successful. And that's what I do. I believe in creating things that look and feel real because they are. I think that for a long time, advertising and marketing has this bad rap of, it's people, spinning things or puffery or exaggerations. And I think that as somebody who works with small businesses, I get really frustrated by that because I know people who love what they do. They love their customers. They're doing it because they can make a difference in their community with it. They can make a difference for their employees with it. And I want to help those people. I want to tell those people's stories. And so that About Us page becomes so incredibly important because that's your opportunity to tell people why you do what you do. And if you can tell that effectively, um, really, the crazy part about this is if you do that really effectively, you're going to drive two people away for everyone you attract. And if you don't actually have a strong brand because you've not said anything compelling enough to make someone love you. Because if you're going to play it safe and stay right in the middle, you're never going to be able to stand out.
Do you find that some one or two of the most common things that people are doing wrong with their marketing? They're not being true and authentic enough to themselves to really attract and repel.
So if I was going to boil down the two things that I feel like every business owner is doing wrong in their marketing is number one, they're not being consistent enough. They think they are, but they're not. And number two, they're not being bold enough. If you're not driving home a message that people really resonate with, then you're probably not doing much of anything. If you're not pissing anybody off with your marketing, if you're not having people go, oh, I can't believe they said that. I can't believe they do that. I can't believe they charge that much money, whatever it is. Then you're probably not doing enough to make somebody go, oh, they are exactly who I'm looking for. One of my favorite examples of that in modern marketing right now is Liquid Death Water. I'm not sure if you're familiar with their brand and
What?
marketing. It's called Liquid Death. It is a canned water company, and they are the word is blasphemous. Like they are just irreverent. They're crazy with it. And it pisses a lot of people off. But the marketing that goes with that is that they've made a huge name for themselves. They have some of the craziest marketing and advertising I've ever seen. And there are a lot of people who look at that marketing and advertising and go, I would never buy this product. I would never consider buying this product. I absolutely would. I hate this product. But the thing is, somebody out there is going, oh, that's awesome. I've never heard of them. What a cool story. What great marketing. What a hilarious ad. I think that's powerful. And I think that it can be done wrong, and it often is. But being bold enough to say, this is who my ideal customer is. And if you don't fit this, you're not my customer. I can't help you. Susan, you may want everyone to love you, but at some point, if I come to you and my business did, $10,000 last year, you need to be able to tell me like, hey, we don't work with brands like yours. We work with brands that are, between $2 and $10 million, whatever the number is. We're really, really good at this. And if you're a $700 million brand, you're not our customer. And if you're a $50,000 brand, you're not our customer. We're good at taking care of these things. And they're like, oh, well, could you help us with something else non-related? And you need to be strong enough to say, no, we don't.
But I know a guy.
Yes, probably, but at least to be exclusive, right? There's
Yeah.
a reason that the Ritz-Carlton isn't for everyone. There's a reason that Lamborghini isn't for everyone. They're not trying to be, and I think that's really intentional. And you could hate Lamborghini all you want; they don't care. They don't care. They could not care less if you. I'm never going to buy a Lamborghini. Cool, you probably can't afford one.
I think I have walked away from this conversation with a much deeper, simplistic understanding of what it takes to be heard, seen, and attract the clients that we want. And that's what I hope everyone who's watching takes the time to truly think about their own brand in terms of those pieces of consistency and being able to attract and repel. We talk about it a lot from an ops perspective on core values. But the problem that I find in a lot of businesses when we talk only about core values is that they're words that are stuck on a wall or put somewhere and nobody ever really reflects it. And so, from a branding perspective, from a marketing perspective, how do you then shout from the rooftops, this is who I am and who I serve? Nick, this was amazing. Any final words that you would like to leave us with?
I would like to challenge every business owner out there with a task, and that is to, you know, really kind of identify what story it is you want your brand to be telling, right? If you could communicate in 1 to 3 sentences what it is that you do, why somebody should care, and what action they should specifically take, I would challenge you to sit down, figure that out, and write that down. But then this is going to be the painful part. Without going and holding a meeting, go meet with every single person who deals with customers representing your brand and ask them to do the same thing and watch how different your answers are. And I will tell you that all of your marketing problems are going to come back to one word, and that is consistency. If your customers aren't telling the story the way you think it needs to be told, if your employees aren't telling the story the way that it needs to be told, if your management isn't able to articulate that story, then you have a consistency problem. And all major marketing and branding problems, start with a lack of consistency and a lack of clarity. You need to get all of your key people involved, going the same direction, saying the same words, promoting the same ideals, and it will change absolutely everything about your marketing and advertising. Then you build everything around that. You build the logo around that. You build the marketing materials around that. You build a website around that. Find those stories, find the things that you need to communicate, and that's how you unlock that super brand.
Are you sure you're not an operator?
Maybe.
All those things are what we talk about for a solid core business. Who are you and what do you want to do? That translates on both sides, whether it's business operations or it's business marketing. It sounds very much like we're preaching the same words.
I agree. I think we are.
I love that. Nick, thank you so much for taking the time to join us today. I had an absolute blast as always.
Susan, thank you. I can't wait to keep following your story and watching what you're doing to help people grow.
Thank you so much, Nick.